Get started. My name is Eileen Liu. I'm really happy to be one of the first people to welcome you here to UC Berkeley. Congratulations on your acceptance and your first year here. We're really excited to welcome you this fall. And today we're talking about an exciting program here in the College of Letters and Science called L&S First-Year Pathways. As I mentioned, the chat has been disabled. So please submit your questions through the Q&A box. We're going to begin with a brief presentation from Professor Nathan Sayre, who's also an Associate Dean here in the College of Letters and Science, as well as the Director of the L&S First-Year Pathways program. And then we're going to hear from a few of the professors who teach in the program and some students who took the program last fall. So it's a really exciting opportunity to hear firsthand from some of the people who not only make this program happen, but make it come alive. And also the students who in our first cohort last fall got to benefit from some of its features firsthand. So once again, my name is Eileen Liu. I'm going to now turn things over to Professor Nathan Sayre, who's going to share his screen and give a brief presentation about the different features of this program.
Thank you, Eileen. Well, welcome everyone. It's a little strange not being able to see your faces, but I'm very, very glad to have you here. Congratulations on your admission and acceptance to Berkeley. Like Eileen, I'm very excited to be able to talk to you today about a program that was occurred for the first time last fall. We'll do it for the second time this fall, and we've put it together precisely to help incoming first-year students sort of get on their feet and get going at Berkeley. And I hope very much to persuade you to take advantage of this new program. So I'm going to share my screen, and oh, now I'm being told I can't share my screen. Pardon me. I apologize. This is not how we planned it. Eileen, do you want to share your screen? Would that be easier? Because I'm being told I have to walk through a whole bunch of security settings to get this going.
Yes, give me a moment.
Sorry. There it is. Can everyone see that, hopefully? So yes, Berkeley is a big place. And especially for new students, figuring out which courses to take can feel overwhelming. L&S First-Year Pathways has been set up, designed to help you move through what we call the breadth requirements, the classes you take outside of your major as part of your degree. It's designed to help you navigate these requirements in a unique and interesting way. Next slide, please. As a Pathways participant, you'll take 3 thematically linked courses with a small group of 25 students in your first semester at Berkeley. These course clusters consist of a central coordinating hub course and 2 wing courses linked through a common theme. The hub courses are small seminar-like settings that provide you with a space to talk about and reflect on the connections between all 3 courses. Where the wing courses are made up of large lecture courses, you'll be assigned your own specially designated discussion section, allowing you to experience all 3 courses with the same small group of students. And all 3 courses will fulfill separate L&S breadth requirements, moving you forward in your degree progress from the beginning of your college experience. Next slide, please. We designed Pathways to help you make friends, ease class enrollment, move forward in your degree, and develop your intellectual passions. It's a new program at Berkeley. Like I said, it took place for the first time last fall. Where programs like this run at other universities, participants tend to earn higher GPAs, complete their degrees more quickly, and enjoy their college experience more. And you'll be in small classes with really interesting professors, people who are sometimes one of the world experts in their topics. We hope that these clusters will help you see the world and your relationship to it in new ways. Next slide. We're very excited about our themes for our clusters this coming fall. They're listed here. You can take classes, three courses around these themes. The first one is race, immigration, and public health. This is a new cluster for this year, and unlike the others, it focuses on a career path. In this case, preparing for careers and study in public health and medicine, and it operates for 2 semesters rather than only 1. It's made up of courses in chemistry, math, sociology, ethnic studies, and the college writing program. The second one is also new this fall. Democracy, philosophy, history, and literature consists of courses in political science, history, and German. The third cluster, technology and society, has a class in American studies, a class in history, and a class in the interdisciplinary studies field. Art, environment, and economic policy is a cluster built around a course in art history, a course in earth and planetary science, and a course in environmental economics and policy. California, ecology and society, has a class in integrative biology, anthropology, and geography. And the sixth cluster, neuroscience, philosophy, and society, consists of 1 class in psychology, 1 in philosophy, and 1 in Scandinavian. Next slide, please. Actually, I apologize. Go back to that last slide. I'm not quite done. I want to say first that we have panelists who were parts of these, who participated in these clusters last fall. So you will be able to ask them specific questions about the clusters and their experiences. You also will get to experience interesting enrichment activities like field trips, cultural events, guest speakers, immersive projects, and others. Last fall, for example, one of the clusters involved camping trips to state parks around the Bay Area to learn about the biomes there. One of the faculty from that cluster is with us this afternoon. Another involved going to local art museums, and a third included viewing and talking about films and music together. There is no additional cost to these experiences. Campus will cover all transportation costs, tickets for events, and so forth. You just need to be able to fit them into your schedule. Dates are on the cluster descriptions on our website. Next slide. Having said all of this, Pathways is a good choice for you if you're unsure about the major that you hope to follow at Berkeley, or if you're feeling kind of intimidated about how big Berkeley is, or overwhelmed by the number of choices you have among courses, or if you're just feeling unsure about how to get started on your academic journey at Berkeley. This gives you 3 courses linked together, different breadth requirements, experience with the same cohort of students. We heard from last fall, students really appreciated that sense of community and cohort that built up over the course of the semester in the 3 courses. Last slide, or second to last slide. Here's information on how to express your interest in enrolling in Pathways. The opportunity will open tomorrow afternoon, June 12th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Enrollment in Pathways is on a first-come, first-served basis. You will have if you go to the website at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon, you will have there will be a link. You will be able to fill out a very short questionnaire indicating your first choice of pathway cluster, your second choice, and whether you're still interested in the program, even if you can't get your first or second choice. We will then we'll keep it open for several weeks and make decisions near the end of June and enroll you in the classes if you've been accepted into the program starting on July 1st. And last slide. For more information, please go to the website. The URL is here, or you can scan the QR code shown, which is also going to, the link will also be in the chat for you to access that way. Now, I think we can stop sharing the screen and start our panel discussion. If you have questions, or if you would like to submit a question, please open the Q&A function in the webinar at the bottom of your screen. We have one student and two faculty. We may be joined by a couple more students who said they were running a little behind. And we are open to your questions. I'm going to briefly ask them each to briefly introduce themselves and say a few words about their experience with the program last fall, and then we'll start taking your questions. Sugata, you want to start?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nathan, and welcome everybody. It's exciting that you'll be joining Cal in fall. Let me quickly introduce myself and then say a few words about the courses that I am co-teaching. So I'm an art historian. I work on climate crisis. I'm currently writing a book on extinction. That is how animals and plants have gone extinct because of colonialism and even neocolonialism. So these are some questions that we'll address in our cluster. As Nathan mentioned, it's really a very exciting set of 3 courses from 3 different disciplines: art history, earth and planetary science, and environmental economics. Typically, these sort of conversations don't happen. So it's Pathways very exciting to make these conversations across schools, across disciplines. What do I say about the program? Last year, the students in the class curated a show at the Berkeley Art Museum, where they actually worked with real artworks and put up a show with on climate crisis. This time we're going to do field trips to the botanical gardens. We'll think about drawing, making films, and how questions of creativity can intervene in the questions of climate and climate justice. And I'll end with a quote by eminent novelist Amitav Ghosh, who wrote a book on climate, where he says that the climate crisis is a crisis of the imagination. So how do we think about imagining ourselves in the world? So that's the big question that we will address and talk across disciplines. So yeah, if you have any questions about the program, or even specifically about the course that I'll be teaching, just pop in the question in the Q&A and I'm happy to answer it. Is there anything else I should add, or?
No, that's great. That gets us started. I'm sure we'll have lots of discussions in the remaining time. Seth, how about you?
Hi, I'm Seth Finnegan. I'm a professor in the Department of Integrative Biology and also at the UC Museum of Paleontology, which is in the Valley Life Sciences building on campus. If you come here, you will inevitably take classes at some point in this building, and one of the campus landmarks is the Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton, and that's right outside us. It's actually sort of a fortuitous juxtaposition because as a paleontologist, I also work on extinction. My focus is particularly on the history of marine ecosystems. So I study marine invertebrates, things like clams and snails and corals, but with a particular focus on understanding past climate crises and extinctions associated with those and what that can tell us about the present day. And the course that I co-taught last year, and I won't actually be teaching it in the fall, and other of my colleagues will be stepping up to do it, but the focus will be the same, is IB82, which is sort of introduction to field research in global change biology. And so this is taught by, again, a combination of paleontologists and ecologists. And as Nathan mentioned, it's very, and as the name implies, it's very field focused. So we go out, we do a series of weekend camping trips, relying on one of the really fantastic resources that the University of California system has, called the UC Reserve System. So we have parcels of land that we can go out and study, and we go to the Sierra Nevada mountains. We spend some time at Point Reyes, and on the coast north of there, we go down to Carmel Valley. And we talk through, how do we actually do research into global change, right? How do we establish that things are changing? How do we measure the rates of change on different time scales? How do we differentiate the human fingerprint and different human fingerprints over time from the natural processes, because change is very much a part of nature. And so we do little sort of, we go out in the field, we do research, sort of guided research little projects. And then at the end, the students do a kind of capstone project where they design and carry out their own research project involving going out and measuring something in the field, on campus, or in local parks.
Cool. Olivia.
Yeah. So hi, my name is Olivia Dawson. I was a part of the Neuroscience, Philosophy, and Society cluster. And right now I'm planning on majoring in cognitive science and legal studies. So far, I did enjoy my time in the Pathways program. I originally wanted to join the Pathways program because I thought it would allow me to have an easier time to adjust to Berkeley, because Berkeley is such a big campus. And so I thought that being able to have that like one-on-one connection, or those smaller connections, and being able to connect with people that were also interested in neuroscience was amazing. And so, yeah, I did definitely enjoy my time in the classes. And yeah, and I feel like it was also very nice because we are with students that were in all of the same three classes, that we were able to, form study groups. So it was very easy. Like if I had questions for one class or another class, it was just very convenient to be able to like ask those questions to those the group of people, and just yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you all three for being here with us. Eileen is going to start curating the questions. I'm sort of monitoring them, and many of them are quite specific. And I would encourage people on the webinar to pose questions to the panelists about the program and their experiences with it. And just to get that kicked off, I think I would like to ask, obviously 2 of you are faculty, 1 of you is a student. Olivia, you've now had a second semester at Berkeley in which you did not have a Pathways cluster sort of organizing your curriculum. Could each of you offer a few thoughts? What's the differences that you saw between the cluster experience, the students in a cluster last fall, or the experience of being a student in a cluster? What did you see anything different or feel anything different in the way sort of the classes unfolded and the way the learning happened with the cohort experience and the same group of students across multiple classes as compared to sort of an ordinary semester at Berkeley? Who'd like to start?
Olivia, do you want to start, since you have a better experience from the other side?
How did it feel, Olivia, with your spring semester? How did it compare to the fall? I'm curious. Do you think was the fall different in important ways because of Pathways?
Yeah, the fall and spring semesters differed a lot. Like for example, I was taking like for example Math 1A and Data C8, which tend to be very large classes. So to go from having a very like small class to having a class with about 1,400 people was definitely a huge change. And it was also a lot harder to find study groups, because like I mentioned, like I had the same 25 people, so you have to like branch out, and you have to yeah, connect with other students that may not have the same classes as you as well. But I feel like the Pathways program definitely helped me in that transition, because I was able to like I was aware of like how big the classes were, and I had a class that had about 250 people for philosophy during the fall. So like it was just like a slow, like gradual transition to having that larger class and being able to fully adjust.
Seth, Shigata, did you see anything different?
So I think for me, what is very exciting about the Pathways program, as Olivia mentions, our classes are usually very big. So we don't get to have intimate conversations about topics or actually pursue a deep discussion. But I think the Pathways program in that way allows for conversations to happen that would not typically happen in a big lecture class. And I know from the students in my last class, they had their group chat and they became friends. So I think that's another wonderful thing about the program is that it creates friendships. And when you come to a new place, it might be alienating. It's a new world. And I think it's great to go through the first semester with a group of friends. I think that was really an important part of the program from the students what I heard.
Seth, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I would second all of that, and it's certainly, I'd say as a professor, it's a real pleasure to teach these classes because again, it's, you get a chance to really interact with students one-on-one much more. And again, the other thing that is very nice is that that those students are taking a set of other classes together. So they have sort of common experiences and there's an opportunity to talk through the way in which these seemingly quite different classes actually relate to one another. So the students that are taking our class are also taking an archaeology class. They're taking a California history class. And part of the goal, I think, of the program was also to sort of show how do all of these seemingly different disciplines relate to one another and how are they sort of in conversation with one another. And so it was a great opportunity to get to know the students and to sort of foster those conversations, which I at least enjoyed. I think the students did as well.
Nice. Eileen, are you ready to start sort of suggesting or reading questions that you'd like us to answer?
Yes, I've got a question, actually two questions that I think speak to each other for Olivia.
Okay.
The first question comes from Annie. Annie asks, could Olivia talk a little bit about her time commitment to Pathways? Also, how did she manage Pathways clusters with other courses and extracurriculars? And then another anonymous attendee asked, how committed do you have to be to the topic of a specific cluster? Olivia, did you ever wish you had more course freedom?
Yeah, so I could speak to the first question about what was it? It was about the courses and
Time commitment,
time.
Pathways involved, and were you able to balance other classes and extracurriculars?
Yeah, the time commitment, it was, I mean, in my opinion, like a standard class. Like you had to go to your classes. It was about, I would say, I had about like 3 hours a day on average. So I think compared to like other people's courses, I know that was fairly like easy and simple. Um, let's see, the homework wasn't like it wasn't bad at all. Like for example, there was a few writing assignments here and there, so like the homework didn't necessarily take up like a lot of my time or like yeah, a massive amount of my time. And during fall semester, I didn't do any extracurriculars. I started doing extracurriculars in the spring, but I know a lot of other pathway students were doing extracurriculars and they were able to manage it fairly well. But yeah, on average, I had about like 3 hours a day for classes and then maybe about 2 hours ish per day on homework. So the time was yeah, I was able to allocate my time fairly well.
And Olivia, what other classes, if any, did you take outside of the Pathways clusters? We have a couple of questions about this.
Outside of the Pathways cluster, I actually only took one class. It was a neurotech decal, and that was about 2 units. But other than that, I just took the Scandinavian class in the cluster. I took a philosophy class in the cluster, and then the neurons in context class. So I had those four classes, the decal, and then those.
Okay, thanks so much, Olivia. I have another question for you. And I think this is following up on something that Nathan shared in his presentation about some of the benefits of Pathways. So this question is from another anonymous attendee. Olivia, did the friendships you created in this program last into your second semester?
Yeah, it definitely did. I know a lot of the kids that were in my semester or my pathways cluster program during fall were also in some of my classes during spring. And so it was really nice to be able to connect with them in that way. Also, a lot of us like hung out outside of the past pathways cluster during fall and spring semester. Like I know, for example, after the midterms, we all got Belgian waffles, so that was pretty cool. We also, some of us actually got like we went to the professor's house afterwards after the Pathways Cluster program, and we were able to hang out there. And I think a few of the Pathways participants also went to a concert recently together. So our friendships have definitely lasted beyond the classroom setting, which I thought was really nice.
Thank you. We have a number of questions that are from students who are wondering, is this the right fit for me? Is this program the right fit for me? We have some students who are thinking about majoring in certain fields, or they already have their heart set on transferring to Haas or what have you. And then we also have some students who are wondering if this is a good fit, if they are sure about what they want to major in, or sorry, if they're not sure if they want to major in something in particular. And so I'm not sure who this question might best be answered by. And so maybe I'll just leave it open to whoever wants to weigh in on it.
Yeah, Seth, go ahead.
Oh, sure. I mean, well, I don't know if you were, did you want to?
Well, I
say
was thinking
something?
about some of the little technical details that, a cluster typically has 11 or 12 credits in total, and that leaves students needing 1 or 2 additional credits. There are lots and lots of sort of mini courses that are worth 1 or 2 credits, decals, freshman seminars, things like that. So it's not hard to fill that last little piece. I saw a question about whether it would be feasible to do 2 clusters at the same time, or to do a cluster plus CS8 at the same time. I think we would, 2 clusters I think is out of the question. That's not something that we can accommodate in the program. Adding CS8 versus a decal or a freshman seminar, I think advising would advise against that. The amount of work involved in the 3 courses is sufficiently great, and CS8 is sort of famously hard. Lots of work. I think you might be setting yourself up for a very difficult first semester at Berkeley. And then, yeah, Seth, I'll turn it over to you with respect to the sort of original question here.
No, all I was
What kind
gonna
of
say is,
student is this good for?
Sorry, what? Oh,
What kind of student is
I mean,
Pathways
I think,
for?
so I think that's going to be a little bit different for everyone. And obviously there is a commitment involved, right? You're taking courses, there's an opportunity cost, but I certainly, our class certainly is designed with students who may be uncertain in mind, right? And part of what we really wanted to do was take students maybe who haven't had a lot of experience outdoors doing sort of camping or field work, and maybe curious about whether that is a direction that they might like to go in. And so I think a lot of the other courses are similar in that I think we are not necessarily looking for students who are, committed to a path yet, right? We really want students coming into Berkeley to take a little time to explore the options. And so, we certainly on our end, I think, encourage students who are not at all certain what they want to do yet.
I would like to add, like, even if you are certain about what you want to do, I think it's also valuable to just like simply connect with other people that are interested in the field that you want to go to or the cluster that you want to go to. Like, for example, I was sure about like neuroscience and cognitive science. And so it's really cool like getting to connect with other cognitive science majors and like, for example, having those connections with future classes I may want to go into. And also I think it's cool like being able to network with like the professors themselves, because a lot of them are very knowledgeable in the field. Like for example, I took the neurons in context class as a part of the neuroscience philosophy and society cluster. And Professor Wilbrecht, which was the person that was teaching that class, actually owned her own lab. So I thought it was really cool, like being able to go to the lab and see like how she works with everybody and works with the people that are like working at the lab, and just learning more about her background, her experience, because she has she's very like knowledgeable on the topic. So I think it is really cool, like being able to network with not only the students, but the professors as well that are very experienced in their field.
Yeah, I think part of the beauty of being in the College of Letters and Sciences is that there are extraordinarily high quality departments across the entire breadth of the liberal arts and sciences. Social science, arts and humanities, natural sciences, biology. There are math and physical sciences. There's just extraordinary diversity of opportunity. If you know exactly what you want to study at Berkeley, the thing I would suggest is that you start by looking very closely at the requirements of that major. Different majors have got very, very different numbers of courses, different ways that they handle prerequisites versus courses that you take after you've declared the major. And some majors require a much longer list of specific classes than other majors. And that would affect whether devoting your first semester to a range of breadth requirements in a cluster is a wise choice for you. If, on the other hand, you're really interested in exploring the breadth and diversity of letters and sciences, this is a great opportunity for you to take a set of courses that speak in some way to a common theme and give you a chance to experience the different disciplinary lenses, the different methods and types of data, types of questions that are asked in different parts of the college.
We have a number of questions, Nathan, that are coming in that are all loosely related to the question of, can I take a cluster but opt out of one or more of the classes in the cluster if, for example, I've already taken a similar class that covers the same breadth requirement or has equivalent college credit as a community college class that I've taken? So I wonder if you could just address the set of questions.
Yeah, I see some of those questions in the chat or the Q&A. I'm afraid the answer is no. If you're signed up for a Pathways cluster, you need to take the 3 courses. One of the key elements of the program is the cohort, is being in the same courses with a small group of students for the semester. And if you get into Pathways, we will enroll you in all 3 of those courses. You won't need to enroll yourself through the standard registration process. And each of those courses, if you choose to drop, you need to drop them all. And you can't drop one without permission from the department that it's in. So it's a decision that, yeah, it's sort of do the whole thing or don't. I can appreciate why, if you've already completed a class that's one of the classes, then maybe the cluster doesn't make sense. Another advantage of the program is precisely that it sort of takes care of registration for you for the first semester, which we understand is a source of significant effort and worry for incoming students getting into the classes they want. But I would encourage you to try to get into those classes that you do want independently, and you will the wing courses, you will be in them if you can get in a different section than the Pathways section.
Thanks, Nathan. And we have one of our alums of the program who just joined us. Olivia, do you want to introduce yourself briefly? And then we'll go back to the questions that are coming in from Q&A.
Hello, my name is Olivia Waptu. I attended the L&S program last 2 semesters. I took philosophy. I also took sociology and American studies, and my major is media studies. I'm sorry for coming late. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for being here as well. Okay, Nathan, I have another question that's actually following right up on the last question, your answer to it. We have a question from an anonymous attendee that asks, are there only 25 and the same 25 students in each class, I think parenthetically, in the cluster, or do all of those 25 students become part of a larger class / lecture?
Yes, and yes. Yes, it's the same 25 students in all 3 of the courses in your cluster. So the hub course is a seminar, and there's no more than 25 students in it, and you are all together, that's it for the class. It all happens in that room with that group of students and the faculty member. The other two courses, the ones we call wing courses, are larger courses that consist of a lecture and a discussion section. And in the lecture, you will be in the lecture hall with the professor and all the other students enrolled in that class, which could be hundreds of students. But your discussion section will be no more than 25 students, and it will be the same 25 students. And each of your wing classes, your discussion section will be a dedicated section for you and those other 24 students. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
I think it does, but anonymous attendee, if you need further clarification, just submit a new question through the Q&A box. Thank you so much. I now have a question for our two faculty who are on the call, Seth and Shugata. We have a question here, again from anonymous attendee, asking, is it easier to make connections with your students as this pathway allows for you to teach smaller groups of students?
Yes, absolutely. No, it's great. That's one of the things that really attracted me to the program as a professor, is the opportunity to have a lot of contact time with students and know that those students in turn are a cohort and know each other very well. So yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to teach these classes as a professor.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly add to that in terms of Seth mentions field trips, right? So that's exciting. Not just in class. Most of these courses also have stuff happening outside the walls of a classroom. So that's another interesting way of engaging faculty, students, and creating a cohort, like going to Point Reyes, which is beautiful. Or for instance, my class, we curated a show at the museum, and students were there in the museum going through the collections, pulling out artwork. So all of these conversations that are happening beyond the formal constraints of a classroom allow for richer and more engaged conversations to happen. Yeah. Aline, you might want to share that link to the Berkeley News article about the exhibition. That would be an interesting model of thinking about things that all the courses in this clusters are doing outside the classroom.
Yes, I'm very happy to find that link. While I'm looking for that link, let me tee up the next cluster of questions. We have a cluster of questions that I think are sort of asking two versions of the same question. One is, how hard is it to get into these clusters? Do they fill up quickly? What's that process like? And then the flip side of that is, if we do get accepted into a cluster, can I opt out? Can I say, actually, I changed my mind?
Yeah, thank you. Those are good questions. The first one is, now I've forgotten the first question already. I have the second question, it's ready to go. How hard is it to get in? That question is hard to answer because it's sort of, we're still learning exactly how much demand there is and how tricky. Last year, we targeted the program more and didn't recruit as heavily because we were concerned about not having enough spots for everyone. This year, we are opening it up to any and all students who are interested on a first come, first served basis. We hope we get enough demand that we have a waiting list for students in each cluster, so that if anyone chooses to drop, we can refill that position in the cluster and maximize the opportunities for students. I think some clusters may be harder to get into than others because demand will be greater for them than others. We don't know yet. All we know is that we'll open enrollment or opportunities for expression of interest tomorrow. And within a few weeks, we'll have word back to you about whether you've been accepted or whether you've been placed on a wait list and which cluster you've been accepted into or waitlisted for. At that time, when you get the email that says you've been admitted, you will have the option to write back and say, you know what, I've changed my mind. I'm not interested. I decline the invitation to be in the cluster. So no, you are not committing yourself to the whole thing the moment you express interest. there will be an opportunity for you to reaffirm that choice after you've found out about which cluster it is, and before we enroll you. Once we enroll you, then it's a little bit more complicated because the process of dropping will involve getting permission from each department, because we want to make sure that the people who are in the cluster are in all 3 courses and don't drop 1 or 2 of them and keep the other. Does that answer the questions, Eileen?
I think they do, but again, if you feel like, if you're attending right now and you feel like you didn't get a full picture, please just submit a new question to the Q&A box. But Nathan, I think that's really helpful. I have a question now for Olivia, and maybe we'll bring in Olivia as well, since we have 2 students here on the call with us. So, anonymous attendee asks, and this I think is actually a question that we've gotten of several iterations about, which is students expressing some nervousness about being behind on prerequisites or requirements for their major. And so Olivia, would either of you like to speak to that set of questions? Like, were you worried about being behind? Do you feel behind now on your any prerequisites for your major? I think one of you said you're doing media studies because of the classes that you were participating in as part of the Pathways program. Olivia, please go ahead. No need to raise your hand.
Okay, so for me, when I first went into Berkeley, I didn't really know what classes to take because I was like, I didn't also come for Cali, so I was like really confused on what to do when I arrived. So arriving to Berkeley, I think my L&S advisor, I really don't remember his name, but so I had to like go to the requisites that we had to take for my course, and I had to look at what I wanted to do first to like make sure for like, because I had to make sure of the major I wanted to do. But if you don't know the major you want to go for, it's still okay. So I did feel behind, but eventually everyone else in my group also felt behind. So it was like good to know that I wasn't also alone, not knowing what to do. But for me, I think as the days went by and as the weeks go by, you would like get a hang of it because you would like know more and they'd like tell you more about it. So yeah, that was for me.
Olivia,
Yeah.
do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so for me, I'd also like to reiterate, like when I first came to Berkeley, I didn't know much about like the breadths, or I didn't know much about the major prerequisites and all of that. Um, for me, did I feel behind? I definitely I know a lot of the classes that I took fulfilled a lot of my breadth, so I feel like in that aspect I was ahead. But at least because I wanted to do the cognitive science major, I don't believe any of the classes that I took in this or in fall semester aligned with my cognitive science major, but it may align with other majors. Like I know there's a new neuroscience program, so it may, I'm not sure, but some courses may align with that, but I'd have to check. But yeah, for me in the sense of like the breadth courses, I would say I've definitely felt ahead. But for my major courses, because none of them aligned with my cognitive science major, then I felt like a little bit behind. But then again, I didn't really know much about prereqs in the beginnings.
Okay, thanks so much. We have a question now for our faculty from anonymous attendee. What kinds of interests do you think students have that are thinking about joining your cluster? And maybe you can think about the students you taught last fall. Did you have a sense of what majors they were contemplating? Did you ever get a student who is totally changing their life plans because of the classes they took with you?
So it's a wonderful question. And I think in a way, if you are, for my class, the cluster that I am teaching, if climate is a question that you want to think about in your research, it's a great way to enter the larger debate on climate change from 3 very different disciplines. But that said, I also don't think that it's necessary to know what you're doing right away. And I think that's important to have an openness to the world. And maybe the courses that you do will change your decision to major, maybe it will not, but it will give you a sense of where we are in the world. And I think that's what I find very exciting about the Pathways program, is precisely because it brings together disciplines that are typically not together. So whether you want to do climate science, or you want to become a scientist saving the planet, or you want to join Greenpeace, or you want to become a business major, it doesn't matter. I think just doing these classes will give a perspective on the world. And that, I think, is finally the most important part of the program. I don't know, Seth, if I'd add to that.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and certainly, obviously, the clusters are designed broadly to sort of appeal to students with different broad interests, but again, the emphasis really is on breadth, and we want to allow students who are curious about, so in our cluster, right, there's a lot of focus on sort of historical process or history and historical processes, both natural and human. So we maybe take in students preferentially, or not preferentially, but maybe students self-select to have interest in that direction. But we really want to encourage students to be open to a little bit of exploration and sort of find what it is that you really want to do. Because, I know there's a lot of pressure on students coming from peers and parents and society in general, to have a plan right now and know exactly what they want to do. But the reality is, this is a time of life when many of you don't yet know what you really want to do. And I started college with very specific idea about what I wanted to do, and it did not really survive contact with my freshman year. I ended up taking a course that totally changed the way I thought about the world and set me on the path that I am on now. And so, again, we encourage you to follow your curiosity, obviously bearing some of the practical considerations that have already been discussed in mind.
We've had a couple of questions about what the sign-up form will look like, and questions about how many clusters can I indicate a preference for, et cetera. And so special sneak preview for the people who are on this webinar right now. I'm going to share my screen and just show you all what the form looks like. We are not going to require a personal statement or anything like that. When the form opens tomorrow at 5:30 Pacific time, you'll be able to click into it. You will need to be signed in with your CalNet ID with your berkeley.edu email. So make sure that you're signed in, otherwise you will not be able to access this form. We'll ask for your first name, your last name, your Berkeley email, your student ID number. You're going to want to know this. I'm sure all the students on this call have them memorized because you end up using them a lot. Your preferred pronouns. We ask that you attest that you've read the FAQs, that you understand what you're signing up for. Attest that if you plan to pursue STEM, that you know that you have familiarized yourselves with the requirements for that particular set of majors. Then we ask you to let us know what your top choice for a cluster is. If you would like, you can indicate a second choice if your first choice is not available. Here's a quick question about if you were opting in for the pre-med cluster, what RNC level placement you're in. And if you don't know, you can say you don't know. That will just help us figure out cluster placements for that one in terms of the RNC requirement. And then lastly, a question about whether or not you're open to being enrolled in any available cluster if your first choices are not available. So yes, no, or other. And then there's a little bonus question if there's anything else that you think we should know about you. But whatever you put in this box will not determine whether or not you get into a cluster. It's, as Nathan has shared, first come, first serve. Okay, so back to our other questions. I have a couple of questions here about, why take the classes in the cluster? What's the difference between just like taking the classes separately? I don't know if this is a question for Nathan or maybe for our students, because, it is plausible you could sign up for some of these classes not through the Pathways program. So what's the benefit of having them all clustered together like this?
I think the answer is the cohort experience, is having the same group of students in all three of the courses for your first semester, and the friendships and the relationships that enables you to build. Otherwise, you would have completely different mix of students in each of your classes. That's fine too. You can make friends with all of them, hopefully. But having the same students in three courses in your first semester, I believe, and Olivia can help substantiate this. I remember several students pointing out that this meant that towards the end of the semester, forming study groups was really, really easy because you all had the same courses to study for. You want to add to that, either of you? Olivia?
Yeah, I can add to that. For me, yeah, I'd like to reiterate, like the study groups are very helpful for me because like I know a lot of the times, I know there was a few times where we had a few like upcoming like huge assignments on the same day, or we'd have a bunch of like essays coming up. And so in that aspect, I remember at night sometimes we would form study groups and we would study for the first one and study for the second thing that we had going on in a different class. So I feel like that was very helpful, and I don't think you could get that not doing the Pathways program because we do all have the same classes together. Yeah, and then as well, I feel like the friendships were amazing. I know a lot of people, still talk. I know I still talk to a lot of my friends in the Pathways program. So, I mean, yeah, you could still make connections outside of the cluster, but I feel like just being surrounded by like the same people throughout all three of your classes was very valuable, and you got to like really get to know other people and also really get to know the professors as well. And yeah, and also I know you guys mentioned like we did do a lot of like field trips as well, so I'm not sure if we can get those field trips doing that separate class or if the field trips only come with the cluster program. But I feel like the field trips are also valuable, and that you couldn't necessarily get outside of the cluster.
You know, that reminds me, I actually should qualify what I said earlier. You can enroll in the wing courses without being in clusters. You can't enroll in the hub courses without being in the Pathways program. So those courses are the ones where you would do field trips, for example, the course that Seth taught with Paul last fall, or get involved with the exhibition at BAM PFA that Shugata helped students put together. Those are perks that are and classes that are specific just to the program.
Okay, great. We have a couple questions that are specific to the pre-med cluster. It's getting a lot of interest, which we're really thrilled about because it is a new cluster that we're offering for this upcoming year. So Nathan, I wonder if you can address some of these specific questions about the pre-med cluster. One question from an anonymous attendee is, if I'm in the pre-med cluster, which fulfills minimum unit requirements, should I enroll in other classes or focus on my cluster classes?
My recommendation would be not to enroll in other courses. However, I would strongly encourage you to discuss the details with somebody in Golden Bear Advising. I know they will, as a rule, they will generally suggest that you not sort of overdo it your first semester at Berkeley, and they have a number of kind of guidelines that they offer about what kinds of courses to mix together to keep a kind of balanced schedule. You don't need to sign up for more classes if you're in the pre-med cluster because the courses in the cluster already add up to 13 credit hours. If you really want to, it's possible to do so. But again, I would encourage you to talk to an advisor before you bite off more. It's hard to, first semester at Berkeley, there's some adjustment to be made, and biting off more than you can chew might backfire on you over the course of the semester.
Thank you, Nathan. We have another question. We have two more actually about the pre-med cluster, and then I'm going to move on because we're almost out of time. So one question from an anonymous attendee is, would you say that these classes are not as difficult as regular classes, specifically the pre-med ones?
No, I don't think so. Certainly not the Math 1A and Chem 1A and Chem 1AL. Those are the courses, those are the normal courses. They're identical to what you would take if you signed up for them without being in Pathways. The hub courses at the middle are seminars. and they are taught by faculty who are accustomed to teaching seminars to undergraduates and graduate students. Whether the level of difficulty or the amount of work in those hub courses is more or less than others, I don't think I can really answer, but there's no reason to assume that they will be easier or harder than other courses that you will take at Berkeley.
Thanks, Nathan. And one last question about the pre-med cluster. Does the college writing RNC, writing for the biological sciences, fulfill both halves of the RNC requirement? So 1A and 1B?
No, it fulfills only one. And the reason there's a question on the interest form is to try to find out ahead of time what level of writing course you are ready for, have been assigned to complete at Berkeley. Writing classes are actually smaller than 25 students. They are capped at 17 students. And the pre-med cluster will actually have 30 students in it rather than 25, which means for the writing class in spring semester, we will divide the cluster just for that writing class into two groups. And depending on what level of writing instruction the students in the cluster need, we will either have one section that is 1A, R1A, and another that's R1B. And you will get to take the one that you need to take, or we will, if everyone is tested out of R1A, for example, we'll have both of those sections at the R1B level. In any case, that's one of the questions we're going to need to sort out after we find out who's interested in the cluster and who's gotten into it.
We've been able to get through most of the questions today, but we are coming to the end of our webinar. And so I encourage you, if you've not gotten your question answered, or if you haven't had time to submit one, to reach out to us via email. Our email address is, let me just double check, or maybe, Michelle, maybe you can put the email into the chat. I don't have it front of mind right now. But yes, you can reach out to us by email. That inbox is monitored by several staff, and you can expect a response within 48 hours during business hours. I want to, oh, thank you. It's lspathways@berkeley.edu. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, I want to end with two questions that I think are related and would love to hear from all of our panelists today, the professors as well as the students. There's two here. One says, what's the biggest downside to the program? And then the other one is, this sounds almost too good to be true. So what's the catch? Why doesn't everyone do this? And I guess the way I would have phrased these questions a little bit differently, but I think you all sort of get the gist of what these attendees are asking. Like, what's the harm of doing this? But also, like, why doesn't everyone do this?
Can I offer a quick answer to that last bit?
Yes.
And that is because it's a brand new program and it's just a pilot at this point. We don't have a program like this for everyone, but we certainly hope to develop we hope to expand the program in future years so that it can be available to, if not all, then a much, much larger share of the students at Berkeley. It's just a question of doing the work to set it up. And because Berkeley is big and bureaucratic, it can be hard to create new programs. It takes a lot of effort, especially at first. Okay, panelists, downsides to the program.
I would like to add something.
Yeah, please.
Personally, I don't feel like there's any downsides to the program. I mean, I feel like one downside is, I mean, you have to see the same people every day for a semester. But honestly, I honestly don't feel like there's any downsides to it, unless you like except for you see everybody every day. So yeah.
How about you, Olivia?
Yeah, I can't really think of a lot of downsides either, to be honest with you. That's a good point, like having to see the same people every day. I mean, if as well, I would say, like, if you did want like a bigger classroom experience and you wanted to be surrounded by like, or have larger classes like 500 to like, I know some classes have like 1,000 people, then I know at least my Pathways program, they had that only a few, or not as many people. Like, for example, I think the biggest class I had was about 250. So yeah, that would be a downside for people that want a larger, or like a larger people in their, or larger amount of people in their class. And then yeah, that's all I can really think of right now.
Seth, Sugata, do you have a downside you could share?
You know, I can't think of many. You know, obviously that you lose some flexibility, right? You have to go all in. So there's an opportunity cost in terms of other classes that you might take, which has already been discussed. But otherwise, yeah, I guess I'll echo the students, and you know, maybe you end up with 24 people you can't stand that you're dealing with every day, but I don't think that's the way it really happens.
Yeah.
In reality, at least in the class we taught, I think the students all got along quite well.
I mean, when I asked this last time I taught this class, what they thought about it, I think that everyone had the same thing, is that they wish they had selected the courses, but that's not possible. It's a catch-22 situation. Either you want a cohort experience or you don't. If you want a cohort experience, then the courses have to be selected by someone else. So I think that is the only sort of it's not a down point, but that's the reality of a cohort experience. That I think that's what's it. And I think most of the students in my class had the same question.
Yeah, we asked the pathway students towards the end of last semester what had attracted them to the program, and the cohort experience was at the top of the list, along with the ease of enrollment, the ease of getting through the registration process, to know that you've got these courses and that you're going to get in, and that they fit together in a way that makes sense thematically and for fulfilling breadth requirements. So those are things, and again, in future years, we hope to be able to provide those advantages to a much larger number of incoming students, knowing that for your first semester, it would make everything else easier to have a couple of things just sort of simplified and taken care of. Registration being at the top of that list, and then after that, you'll have 7 more semesters at Berkeley. You can choose to take whatever you like, but by that point, you will have made friends with a small group of students and developed common interests and experiences with them, and those will last. Those will carry you forward through who knows how many classes and experiences and opportunities here. I realize we've come to the end of our time, and I want to thank everyone. I want to thank our panelists, first of all, for taking the time to answer questions and share their experiences with the prospective students. I want to thank the newly admitted students, and congratulations again for your admission. We really look forward to seeing you, and we hope that you will fill out the form tomorrow at 5:30 when it opens up, and we look forward to meeting you and experiencing your first semester with you in the fall. Eileen, have you got anything you'd like to add?